Bobby, you're a guy that remembers random trivia from our childhood. Do you remember the Cobra Kai motto?
Yes, strike fast, strike hard, no mercy.
Now, I don't mean to sound like a metering nerd, but this kind of sounds like the new Viper that 908 just dropped.
Right, but instead of roundhouse kicking kids to the face, they're going to hit the FTIR and ramen.
Yeah, and when you add in this smart, the smart spectral processing, it's like
Yeah,
sweeping the leg and reading the compound.
right, without hitting the teenagers and stuff.
Well, I'm all about hitting the teenagers and stuff, but even so, it's kind of badass. It's like having Mr. Miyagi right in your corner.
Right, you should check out this new champ at 908devices.com. Take no mercy on your mystery chemicals. And in 2024, there was 138 hazmat responders in the United States that were injured. And that, in our opinion, is 138 too many. Your team's mission is very simple. Just do your job, do it well, and get home safe.
But the key to all of that is that you need training that works in the real world, not just theory.
Right. That's why you should work with us, the Hazmat Guys. We are a top-rated hazmat trainer by JM Powers in 23, 24, and 25. And we're bringing thousands of field hours, cutting-edge equipment, and fully customized programs built around your team and locations.
Here's how you do it. Simple, three-step path towards a zero-injury hazmat operations. Call and schedule a phone call with us. In that phone call, we're going to tailor your training plan with all your needs, specifications for your areas, and then you execute the best in-class drills on your turf.
Right. So our slots for Q4 and Q1 of next year are already starting to get limited. So secure your team spot today. Well, we are back, right, Mike? Mike? Ah, yes, I forgot. We are so busy delivering classes that we actually have gone through the entire bullpen, and we had to put Mike out on the road too. So I am going to give a solo performance on this podcast it's DOT Class 6, Part 2. But before I get there, I want to tell you about all the other podcasts we got coming up. Hazard Class with Jake, Industrial Strength with our friends from the industrial world, the Newsletter Podcast. And if you don't know what that is, go look up the Newsletter Podcast by the Hazmat Guys, and you'll find that. This week, actually just happened last night, was the Happy Hour, which is the fourth Thursday. It's a 1-hour chat enters you into a scholarship drawing for the Southernmost Hazmat Conference, which is going to be in February 3 through 5, 2026 in lovely downtown Key West. And word on the street is grants are dropping by the 30th of September. So if you put in for some grants, that money is going to rain down on you very hard. And don't forget us when that time comes. Hot Zone Conference, you can see us at October, and NATSPO Conference, which is November 3 through 5. So let's get into the second part of the DOT 6. And in this part, we're going to talk about the API, which is our all-encompassing thought process in hazmat about doing, you analyze, you predict, you implement, and then you evaluate whether it's done. And this isn't, we've done episodes on this, go back in time, but it is not rocket science. It is kind of how you live your life as a human being. You say, wow, this is a problem. Let me figure out how to do this. You plan it, and then you do it, and then you kind of say, well, that didn't work so well, and you adjust your course of action. So in this part of our poisons, we want to look at the incident commander and coordination parts, right? So when we do this, we're going to stand up our ICS at once, right? The first responders are going to assume the role of IC. And remember, in the rule of hazmat, there are two positions that must be filled. One is IC, and one is the hazmat group soup, or the safety officer. And then you're going to prepare for the interagency coordination. And that could be something like you're talking to public health, or you're talking to the cops or FBI or whoever. You can also be talking to NFPA and OSHA. They require some clear chain of command with roles defined, like safety, like decon, and more. We also might want to pre-plan with hospitals and health departments, because if one of these cylinders either is involved in a leak, intentional or accidental, then we might have things with like contaminated patients, and they're expected that they're going to be expected coming to the ER, so they can prepare those isolation rooms or the decon areas if you need. And consider also that you're going to need some maybe unified command when there is that intent, like the criminal or terrorist act that is possible with these. Of all these hazard classes that we have, this is probably one of the more useful for a terrorist. And so consider that as a is the leak intentional or not? I just want to keep that in mind. We also want to talk about site control and zones, like our hot zone, which is the contamination zone, the warm zone, which is the decon zone, and our cold, which is the support zone. They keep changing the names of these things. It's like the contaminant reduction zone or whatever. I still go with the older ones, but the zone size depends on the spread. For example, if I have a larger one, if it's airborne, and a smaller one, if it's localized. We could also utilize our ERG and hazard models to set isolation distances. You might use something like Peak in order to do plume modeling, or Aloha. But if you're an ERG, if you're an operation level guy, you're going to be using your ERG. If you're a technician or a spec, you're probably going to be doing some plume modeling and or implementation of your meters. This is one of those ones where you want to make sure that you keep with the buddy system, like the 2 in, 2 out thing. It's not just a good idea. It really maintains a backup rescue team type idea on standby. And I was just teaching a class actually today, and we were talking about backup teams and how close they need to be. And in this one, you need them as close as possible, but not within that whole PEL ideal H, so that they can stay off air and be in the ready position. And also consider the outdoors, right? Whether we have wind or weather, or indoors, we have shut the HVACs off, isolate rooms, close doors, and utilizing those building plans to figure that out. As far as our PPE, our protective equipment, let's say, and resources, you may want to go to a level A for an unknown or extreme hazard, a level B when you have an identified agent which is less than skin toxic. Remember, when the two criteria to get in a level A is it needs to be a respiratory hazard. Okay, not a big deal, put it on your SCBA, but it also needs to be a skin problem. And there's a solid argument with that. And then you possibly could go to a level C with respirators if it's a stable operation. However, there's a lot of variables with that as well, like the oxygen level, what's the ideal H, what is the contaminant itself. Another part is the infectious substances, like maybe anthrax. That might allow a B or a C with a PAPR or a P100 filter. But we got to plan for responders and decon people, like people that need to go through decon. We might need showers, bleach, or other solutions, gross versus mass decon setups, such as tower ladders or engines with fog nozzles, like 2 engines in like a V pattern with fog nozzle, and we push the people through that funnel to get them through. We want to coordinate what we're doing with the EMS and the hospital, because they'll adjust their trajectory of care based upon our decon methods. And you also might want to check out, Chemtrek, if that's a viable thing, the CDC, maybe antidotes like Mark 1 kits or cyanide kits if you need that. We're going to be thinking about public protection actions as well. Like, do we do an evacuation or a shelter in place? And that question and answer kind of comes straight up from how long is it going to take to handle this? If I am expecting the plume to go and be gone, shelter in place. If I'm expecting it to be a longer and drawn out thing, we might consider evacuation, because airborne poisons, I'm not going to say they're all heavier than air. You're going to have to look it up, because this topic or this genre of chemicals is pretty eclectic. Some go down. Actually, most of them go down. I can think off the top of my head. I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 that go up as well. So consider that. But when you put people as an evacuation, you're going to need, even the shelter in place, probably more importantly on the shelter in place, you need to utilize the alert systems for public notification. Because as we've said many times on the show, a person's smart, but people are dumb. And they're going to get squirrely. Because if you think about this in a, whoever's listening to this, my drivel here, in your movie that you're starring in, you're the hero. Right. And so if I tell everybody, hey, stay inside, in their movie, in their head, the hero's got to come out and save the day. And so by feeding them more and more information, you're putting the hero at bay. Oh, it's better to do this. So keep doing that, because we might have to quarantine under public health direction maybe. So we want to utilize our medical plan for both public and responders, and we want to document our protective actions in the IAP, which is an important part. With that, the IC, let's put on his hat for a second, and we're going to probably have to notify some people, like the National Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or the NRC, maybe the EPA, maybe the Department of Environmental Conservation, OSHA, state, local environmental agencies, law enforcement, CDC, whatever. You're going to have to talk to some people. And so you're going to need a liaison or something like that, because usually the IC is not the guy that's actually talking to them. But you're probably going to have to generate a formal, like, PIO type release for notifications. And it doesn't always fall directly, squarely inside one jurisdiction, right? There might be the plume goes into another area. So you might have to coordinate with neighboring agencies as well. Hey, Mike, look around and tell me how many lithium-ion batteries you have around you right now.
I'd say I've got about 7 or 8.
See, batteries are everywhere, and pretty much every fire department in the world is dealing with battery fires now on a regular basis.
So we are very excited to talk to you about a new product that came across our desk, for lack of better words, that's proven to limit and control battery fire propagation. It's from a brand called the Geo, and it is chock full of hazmat experts who know that there's a better way for us, the first responder, to handle, store, and ship at-risk lithium-ion batteries.
This product will solve your lithium-ion battery problems. It's lightweight. It works across all battery types, and we can say that it lives up to the hype because we've tested it ourselves firsthand.
It's called ObexionFR, and it's part of a 2-part system with a scientifically designed granular along with a UN-certified paler drum. More importantly, ObexionFR is proven to reduce the toxic IDLH gases that are emitted when one of these batteries starts to kick off. So all in all, it's going to help keep your team safe.
Right, so go to thehazmatguys.dgo.com. That's thehazmatguys.dgeo.com.
And we promised that we would look into a solution for the battery fire. Many companies have come and presented our products to us. There's been one really noteworthy one, and that is because it actually extinguishes the lithium-ion battery fires. It's going to work on multiple classes of fire. It's not this one-trick pony, but it's also going to prevent the fire from spreading, and it's going to prevent the lithium-ion battery from reigniting.
Now, before that guy, there was a meme that came out. Somebody threw a rock into a moving washing machine and it destroyed itself. And that was like this guy just coming into the hazmat conversation and just destroying the whole conversation because he has to say something. But if you care, in the show notes, we have the UL Class A and Class B and the BSI for 10 categories, including the lithium-ion battery studies.
Now, we've put this through our own set of field testings, and I got to tell you, we were impressed with the results. So we encourage you to do your own myth-busting. It's available in a variety of forms, so it's going to help integrate into whatever your current process is. Check them out at Fire Suppression Solutions or click the link in the show notes.
As far as our implementation, now we're ready to actually do it. We've analyzed things. We're going to think about safety briefings in the hot zone. Teams must be in correct PPE with monitoring gear. We're going to approach cautiously, uphill, upwind, upstate. We're going to do some entry things like stopping the leak, like closing the valves and tightening the drums and overpacking. And if we have a problem, where are we withdrawing to? Communication is going to be important. We were just having this conversation today is, what is the situation? Do you have a countywide dispatch? Do you have a fire ground? Does the hazmat team go to another channel? What happens if there's an emergency on the communication thing? Because we have to worry about the hot zone times, cumulative exposures, and more. These chemicals could be a liquid, they could be a gas. Actually, they could be a solid too. So, are we damming and diking? Are we preventing migration? Powders, is it better to, and I'll throw this out, if you haven't dealt with these things, and everybody goes, oh, powders and solids are so easy. If it gets on you, let's say you're in fire gear or whatever it is, and I just start taking it off, which I'm a fan of taking off my contaminant. You take off 90% of the problem. But the problem with this is that it could make those things airborne. And so tacking it down with like a light mist of soapy water to actually stick it to you and then take off your gear might be a better thing. So basically what I'm saying is avoid the fans and the high pressure water jets and stuff. We might want to, for infection materials, disinfect surfaces if safe. And if we have a gas, well, a gas wants to be a gas. So ventilate, apply fog streams to maybe push it or drop it. Use scrubber systems if available. That would depend a lot on solubility. But we want to try to shut down that HVAC in buildings and kind of hold it there. As far as our rescue and victim decon, we're going to try to get them out of the hot zone quickly, reduce touching them in the warm zone, gross decon. We're going to try to get them out of the clothing, flush the skin. We're going to try to use either soap and water, possibly consider bleach, disinfectants, maybe some Dahlgrens on there. You can use certain things on surfaces and not on skins. For biologicals, let's say anthrax, a little bit of soap and water, maybe bleach. But if you can do some privacy, great. If you can't, okay, do your best. But ensure that EMS receives only the clean patients or as clean as possible. And then you got to worry about us, the responder, and we have decon setups as well. So we can do our decon line as normal in the warm zone. We always set up our decon based upon, it'll all be good. Consider, if you went to a supermarket and there was only one checkout booth, it would be the crappiest supermarket ever. So make multiple lines for the possibility. You might have one for ambulatory people, one for non-ambulatory people. You might have the regular checkout line for responders, and then you might have the express lane for when things go sideways. Consider runoff and have backup PPE on during decon in case the responder goes into distress or whatever. But plan for the contingencies as well. And then we got to talk about the medical treatment and countermeasures, right? So we have supportive care like oxygen, shock prevention, seizure control, because these types of chemicals are made, they're organophosphates, right? If I have an organophosphate, which is kind of like a WMD, we might be able to give like atropine or something like that. If it's a cyanide, hydroxocarbamolin. Ooh, man. Where's Mike? I can't speak today. Okay. Infectious exposures, such as prophylactic antibiotics like Cipro for anthrax or something like that. You're going to be coordinating with an EMS or a medical director in order to do this. Now we have contaminated people, exposed people, and we want to prevent secondary spread. So limit your entry to the hot zone, decon vehicles and the like and equipment before we're using it as best you can. Contain all the contaminated runoff and waste and require responders to shower or change before leaving scenes. And I think that's kind of an easy thing. Now we get into the evaluation. Okay, are the actions we do working? Okay, has the leak stopped? Are the hazards contained? Are the victims rescued / deconned? And are there any residual hazards? And with that, environment starts coming into it as well to confirm that we have safe levels, either through metering if you have the luxury of having a meter that could pick this stuff up. For biologicals, you might need to do like a RAID 8 type swab. Consider that. I'm giving you a lot of considers here, but accountability. We might have to do accountability for our personnel before demob, medical evaluations for responders, log exposures. Please log these exposures, because after it happens, it's very hard to go back and point at it. That, make the paperwork now, because long down the road, you might catch something and you can point at this as being a thing. But public health follow-up for infectious or toxic exposures is another thing. We're going to have to do our debrief and investigation. We're going to have to do a hot wash. I personally recommend, though I'm sure there's going to be people on jobs that don't recommend this, is get it on a recording. Just get everybody to vomit their thoughts. And we can do this for lessons and out of service equipment and best practices and what was right and what was wrong and names and numbers. Just dump it. Try to get the evidence for criminal cases if possible. That might include some photography or whatever to help those agencies, and make sure that the IC and the safety or the scribe is taking all those reports. The decon is going to be destroyed. Like, it's just going to be carnage there. So getting our equipment back in service, maybe asking a neighboring department, can you lend me some stuff in case something happens in the meantime? But you want to try to get yourself back up and running as fast as possible. And then comes the arduous thing of doing our after action review, which is going to formally identify the gaps in training. I like having everybody give their evaluations, but not everything that everybody says is important. I'm looking at you, Jeff. No, I'm joking. I'm just saying, everybody's got a gripe. The gripes have to be positive. I don't want to say positive. You can have negative gripes, but you definitely want to, if you come to a session with nothing but complaints and never a solution or ways things could have been improved, you're just a complainer. So I think that you should come there and be like, listen, this didn't work, but I've been thinking about this a little bit. If we just did this, it might fix it. And it packages it up a little bit better. So we want to look for our gaps in training, comms, PPE, coordination, and eventually we want to address those concerns with future training and resource acquisition. Like, oh, we didn't have that equipment. Well, we need to get that equipment, or we need this type of training. And then that helps with our continued health surveillance where indicated. And eventually the whole thing's gonna be over, right? So we want to kind of close with our regulatory stuff. Like, we might have to do follow-up reports with the NRC, the OSHA, or DOT or EPA, whoever it might be. You're going to try to coordinate with public health for advisories and press releases. I'm just actually thinking about this. It would actually, I should have put on this thing. And then build your next conference thing, because you're going to be on the conference circuit forever talking about this exact same thing. Sounds like a good idea.
The hazmat guys, quite frankly.